Hello friends, welcome to the new session of Physiology, the endocrine system. In this lecture we will see about the master endocrine gland, that is hypothalamus. Then we will see about pituitary, and then we will see about the growth hormone. What are the actions and functions of the growth hormone? The hypothalamo-hypophyseal system. This you might have commonly heard that. What is the meaning of that? Hypophysis, that is anterior pituitary, is also called as hypophysis. This is the one which controls most of the endocrine functions of the body. Hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is called as the master endocrine gland. It will control the pituitary. Then from the pituitary, the most of the endocrine functions that can be controlled. How does the hypothalamus controls the pituitary? Is through the hypothalamus secretes some of the hormones, which passes to the hypothalamo-hypophyseal vessels, portal vessels, which will go to the pituitary, and then it will act on the pituitary. Not only that, the part of the posterior pituitary, which actually the axons from the hypothalamus, they will terminate into the posterior pituitary. So the neural connection is also there from the posterior pituitary to the hypothalamus. In this way, hypothalamus is able to control the number of functions of the pituitary. The question is that why does the hypothalamus act as a master endocrine gland? Hypothalamus, if you analyze the function of the hypothalamus receives most of the input of the well-being of the body. Now, what is the meaning of well-being of the body? If the person is feeling thirst, then the information will go to the hypothalamus. If the person is having pain, the information will go to the hypothalamus. Not only that, but most of the emotions, ultimately, some information will be going to the hypothalamus. Sensory input, mainly from the vision, even it can be from the taste, which can have the pleasant or unpleasant sensation. That information will go to the hypothalamus. So, hypothalamus acts as an integrating center for the well-being of the body. Not only that, but the concept of a biological clock. The hypothalamus is the one we can say that where the biological clock is situated. What is the meaning of biological clock? That there will be sudden spurt of the hormones at the time of puberty, and the pubertal changes will occur. The menstrual cycle is the classical one which can be regulated over the period of month with the hormonal changes. So certain hormonal changes will occur at a particular time. Time in a day we can say, or time in a month, or time in a year we can say. This we call it as a hypothetical biological clock, which is situated in the hypothalamus. We will call it as a hypothalamus, right? So, because of this now, the hypothalamus acts as a master endocrine gland, which is able to control the many of the functions of the other endocrine system. Next, we will see about how does the hypothalamus controls the anterior pituitary mainly. Hypothalamus secretes number of the hormones related to that. As you can see in this table, what are the hormones secreted by the hypothalamus? Thyrotropin releasing hormone. Now, what is this thyrotropin releasing hormone? So, how does the hypothalamus controls the anterior pituitary? It controls the anterior pituitary by secreting number of the hormones. Which are the hormones of the hypothalamus? As you can see in this table, thyrotropin releasing hormone. As the name itself suggests, what it is going to do? It is going to cause the thyroid stimulating hormone, which is released by the thyrotropes of the anterior pituitary. And this thyroid stimulating hormone will act over the thyroid gland to cause release of T3 and T4, that is the thyroid hormones. So, TRH, generally it is called as thyrotropin releasing hormone, is secreted by hypothalamus, which will act over the anterior pituitary to cause release of TSH. TSH in turn will act over the thyroid gland to cause release of T3 and T4. Next hormone of the hypothalamus is gonadotropin releasing hormone. As the name itself suggests, when it acts over the anterior pituitary, what it is going to cause? Secretion of follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone from the anterior pituitary. And this follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone has got number of reproductive functions that will be controlled mainly. Next, corticotropin releasing hormone. This is released from the hypothalamus, which is going to act over the anterior pituitary and over the corticotropes, and it is going to cause the secretion of adrenocorticotropic hormone. Now, what is the function of adrenocorticotropic hormone? It will act over the adrenal cortex to cause release of mainly the glucocorticoids and to some extent the mineralocorticoids. Next hormone is growth hormone releasing hormone. What it is going to cause? It is going to cause release of growth hormone from the anterior pituitary. So that's next. There is a growth hormone inhibitory hormone. It is called as somatostatin. So what is the function of growth hormone inhibitory hormone? It will inhibit the secretion of growth hormone from the anterior pituitary. And there is one more hormone which is called as prolactin inhibiting hormone. What is the function of prolactin inhibiting hormone? It will suppress the synthesis of the prolactin from the anterior pituitary. So if I now connect the connection between the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary, and if a question is asked to you that all of the following hormones will be decreased except which one, if the connection between the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary are cut down. So which hormone will increase? Prolactin, because as you can see here, the prolactin inhibiting hormone is present. If that function is lost, now the prolactin secretion by the anterior pituitary, that is going to increase. So these are the hormones of the hypothalamus which are going to act over the anterior pituitary. Now, when it comes to the posterior pituitary, actually, the posterior pituitary, as I have told you, they receive the axons from the hypothalamus. And the hormones secreted from the hormones synthesized in the hypothalamus, they are secreted by the posterior pituitary. Oxytocin, then ADH or vasopressin. These are the hormones of the posterior pituitary. When it comes to the anterior pituitary, which is also called as adenohypophysis. So what are the hormones which are secreted by the adenohypophysis now? It has got the different types of cells, the anterior pituitary, and they secrete different hormones related to that. What are different types of cells? Somatotropes or acidophils, depending upon their staining characteristics. What they will synthesize? They will synthesize growth hormone, right? What is the action of growth hormone? We will see that in the detail, but in short, it is required for the body growth to occur. Then next is the adrenocorticotropic hormone or ACTH. Then what is the function of ACTH? It will act over the adrenal cortex and it is synthesized by corticotropes from the anterior pituitary. Next we have got is the thyrotropes, which will synthesize thyroid stimulating hormone, which will act over the thyroid gland. Then we have what is the other type of cells which are called as gonadotropes. What is the function of gonadotropes? They will cause synthesis of FSH and LH. And then we have got is the lactotropes or mammotropes. What they will cause? They will cause synthesis of prolactin. Ultimately, it is stimulate the milk secretion and production. That is the function of the prolactin. So these are the functions of the anterior pituitary. Now coming to the growth hormone. In detail, we will see about the growth hormone. Growth hormone, as the name suggests, it is going to cause growth of all the cells in the body. Whatever the cells which can grow. Ultimately, the growth hormone is responsible for the growth of them. The growth is not only in the form of the number of cells that are increased, but the size of individual cell that is also increased. So ultimately, the growth will be in both the forms. The number is also going to increase as well as the size of individual cells that is going to be increased. It was seen that the action of the growth hormone will not be complete if the insulin is not present. So the insulin is must for the action of the growth hormone. Now, how does the exactly insulin helps the growth hormone? That is not known, but it is thought that the insulin, one which is required for the amino acid and glucose entry into the cell. So if the amino acid and glucose entry is there into the cell, that ultimately will help for the growth as such. Amino acid will help for the protein anabolism. Glucose will help for the energy production. That is it. Now we will see the system-wise, how does the effect of the growth hormone. Effect of the growth hormone on the metabolic system. When it comes to about the proteins, mainly the growth hormone. Growth means what? It is mainly the proteins. That should be more, anabolism should be there. Protein synthesis, that should be increased. So what is the number one function of the growth hormone? Protein anabolic effect. It is going to cause, the anabolism is going to be is going to be increased. Now, how does this increases the anabolism? First step, there is more uptake of amino acids. This can be with the help of insulin as such. So ultimately, what will the growth hormone will do? More uptake of the amino acids into the cell. Once there is more uptake of amino acids, there is more translation, transcription process, and more synthesis. New proteins, they are being formed. So ultimately, that will result in the growth. Not only that, but there is decrease in the catabolism. So the protein breakdown, that will be decreased. So ultimately, what will be the net effect? Increase in the size of the increase in the content of the protein, increase in the size of the cell. That will be the net effect. Then, the other function of the growth hormone is that if you analyze it, it will make the fats more suitable, or I can say that it will make fats more available for the energy use compared to that of the carbohydrates. It will try to spare the carbohydrate. It will try to increase the blood glucose level. And it will try to make the other tissues, except the one which are which are mainly affected by the growth, such as skeletal muscle or the other things are mainly utilizing the free fatty acids for the energy. So what is the ultimate aim of the growth hormone? To increase the blood sugar level. Now, this is very, very important factor, because some of the cells in the body, they only depend on the glucose for their metabolism. A classical example of them is the neurons or the brain cells. They are only dependent more on the glucose for their metabolism. So they require glucose for the entry. So the important functions of the growth hormone we can analyze is that they make more and more glucose available for the neurons. At the same time, they make more free fatty acids available for the energy substrate for the other cells. Now, how does the fat utilization is increased? They enhances the fat utilization. How this can happen? They increases the release of fatty acids from the adipose tissue. More fatty acids are released and they are converted into acetyl-CoA with substrate, that is for the energy formation for the fats. Excess use of fatty acids by the liver can even cause a condition of a ketosis or ketoacidosis, because excess breakdown of the fatty acids that is going to take place. Fatty liver that can be generated, fatty liver that can happen because of the excess of growth hormone. They have got, as I have told you, growth hormone wants to increase the glucose level. At the same time, it also increases the insulin level. So you might be thinking that insulin, what is the function of insulin? It is going to cause entry of the glucose into the cell. But then when the insulin level is increased, how the glucose level can be simultaneously increased? Either it can be a secondary effect, and a typical phenomenon of insulin resistance, like a type which is seen in the type 2 diabetic patient, that is generated by the growth hormone. Insulin resistance. Though the glucose is present, though insulin is present, but then because of the insulin resistance, now the glucose entry into the other cells, that is left diminished, and the glucose level in the blood, that will be increased. So the growth hormone, they are said to have the diabetogenic effect. That means they are going to decrease the carbohydrate utilization by the tissues. They are going to increase the glucose production, and either because of the secondary effect or the insulin level is also increased. But remember, there is a insulin resistance like a phenomena by which the glucose level remains high, and this glucose can be very useful for the neurons. Then, most important function of the growth hormone is to cause growth of the bone and the muscle mass as such. How does the bone? Characteristically, if you see if at all, before the epiphyseal, if the epiphysis has not fused in the childhood, now the growth hormone one is the one which is mainly responsible to cause the elongation of the bones, or the lengthening, we can say, to increase the height of the person. It can cause, how does it will affect over the bone? It will increase the cell division of osteogenic and chondrocytic cells. And it will increase the protein deposition by these cells. Causes more conversion of chondrocytes into osteogenic cells, which will form the new bone. But as you might have studied that epiphyseal cartilage, when it is going to deposit the bone, epiphyseal cartilage itself is being used up. And a time will come when the epiphyseal cartilage will end up. So epiphyseal fusion we will call it as. And in that case what will happen now? The length of the bone will not increase further. So ultimately the growth hormone will cause the closure of the epiphysis. And then the further increase in the length of the bone, that will not be there. But when it comes to the membranous bone, the growth can still continue. The osteoblastic activity is much more compared to that of the osteoclastic activity. So ultimately what will happen? More bone that will be deposited, and this can continue even after the adult, even if the growth hormone is the excess in the adult. So acromegaly, what happens in the acromegaly now? There is excess growth of the mandible. So mandible protrusion will be there. Even the orbits, these are the protrusion that will be there is because of the excess effect of the growth hormone over the bone. That is the membranous bone. It was seen that in the experimental animals, if the growth hormone is given, the growth hormone is not able to cause the effect as potent as it is seen in the natural, that is the natural animals. So the growth hormone in the experimental tissues, it was seen that it is having very short time, or it is not that effective. Later on it was discovered that the growth hormone, the half-life of the growth hormone is very short, is about just 20 minutes. Because it is weakly bound to the plasma protein. So ultimately it is rapidly being used up and it is destroyed. So since the growth hormone has got a very short half-life, the direct action of the growth hormone is minimal. The growth hormone in turn will stimulate the other tissues to cause release of somatomedins. These are called as somatomedins. Mainly it is by the liver. These substances, and the most important among them is somatomedin C. These substances are the ones which are called as mediators. And compared to that of the growth hormone now, the somatomedins will have similar action to that of the growth hormone. They are responsible for the growth. And not only that, but the somatomedins can have very long half-life, about 20 hours or so. So the most of the action of the growth hormone is through somatomedins. Growth hormone will act over the tissues, mainly the liver. It is going to cause the synthesis of somatomedin in the liver tissue. This somatomedins in turn will again going to cause the action of the growth. Right? The importance of the somatomedins in African pygmies, where those who have got the short height, the growth hormone level is normal, but they don't have the somatomedin C. Same is the case seen in Levi-Laurent-Dwarfs. These persons will also not have the somatomedin C. So because of that, the height will be stunted. So this is because of the growth hormone. Role of growth hormone, releasing hormone, and somatostatin. About the regulation of the growth hormone secretion. Ventromedial nucleus of the hypothalamus releases growth hormone, releasing hormone. Now, which are the stimuli? We will see various stimuli are there. Hypoglycemia, emotions, that will act as mainly the stimuli for that. And this growth hormone releasing hormone, once it is released, it will bind with the somatotropes present in the anterior pituitary. It is going to cause increase in cyclic AMP level, and because of that there is more calcium influx, and then that causes exocytosis and release of the growth hormone. That is the major function of the growth hormone releasing hormone. It also increases the process of transcription. So more and more synthesis of the growth hormone will take place. Then in case that is the when it comes to about the growth hormone inhibiting hormone or somatostatin. So there is a feedback inhibition of the growth hormone that itself will decrease the level of the growth hormone releasing hormone, as well as there is a somatostatin which is going to cause the decrease in the release of the growth hormone. So these are the one which is good. When it comes to the what are the factors which causes increase in the growth hormone secretion, stimuli for the growth hormone secretion. Most important factor is the hypoglycemia. Is one which is very important one. Hypoglycemia, especially the prolonged hypoglycemia, as seen in starvation, fasting, malnutrition. In these cases, the growth hormone level will be increased. If there is an increase in blood amino acids, what is the function of growth hormone? Amino acid uptake is increased. So if there is an increase in blood amino acids, the growth hormone will be released. If there is decrease in blood free fatty acids, the growth hormone would like to increase the blood-free fatty acids. So the growth hormone level will be increased. So what are the other stimuli for the release of growth hormone? Increased level of blood amino acids, decreased level of blood-free fatty acids. Exercise, stress, trauma, excitement. Signals are sent to the hypothalamus, growth hormone releasing hormone is released, and the growth hormone level will be increased. Ghrelin, which is a hormone released by the stomach before meals. This is a hormone which is seen to increase the level of the growth hormone. Growth hormone has got certain circadian variation. The growth hormone level was seen maximum in the deep sleep, especially at the stage 2 and the stage 4 sleep. What are the factors which will decrease the growth hormone secretion? Hyperglycemia, that is, there is an increased blood glucose level. Then when there is an increased blood free fatty acid level. With aging, the growth hormone level will go down. In obesity, the growth hormone level will be less. Then there is a feedback inhibition from the somatostatin, somatomedins, and the growth hormone itself.